So once we know that Bullhorn and InTime Core are properly integrated and information is flowing between the two systems, if we were to come into InTime, this is the kind of view that an administrator would have, and obviously this is a core account. So on this particular screen, you've got a clear view of everything that's happening within the business in terms of timesheets, expenses, and invoices. So if I was to talk you through it really quickly from left to right, the timesheet column would show you any timesheets that you have missing for any particular placements that your contractors are working on at that particular moment. Once your contractors have logged into InTime, submitted their time and hours, it would then move through to the unauthorized stage. So that's obviously waiting approval from perhaps a client manager or consultant or maybe even an administrator, depending on how you set up that placement. Once they have been approved, it would be ready for sales invoice. So that's at the point when a timesheet has been approved, but you're just waiting to obviously generate an invoice. The last three columns, so we have to self-bill invoice. So self-bill arrangement is something that you'd have to have with your contractor prior to the placement going live, but it effectively means you can generate an invoice for them on their behalf. So we've typically found some contractors, particularly those who are on perhaps a higher rate, they can be found to kind of be sitting on invoices for quite a while, and you're kind of there's a bit of a delay in the sense of you're kind of waiting for invoices to come in. But with a self-bill arrangement in place, you can generate invoices for them, and obviously you've cancelled out that lag time, if you like. The next one is advice note, and that's typically for your standard limited worker. InTime would make a prediction based on the amount of hours and obviously their day rate or hourly rate, and it would produce a note obviously to your contractor saying, we understand you're working at company X for this many hours on this rate, we expect a timesheet from you for this value. If your work is a PAYE, obviously pay as you earn, they would sit in here, exactly the same approval, exactly the same workflow process, all of the others, but obviously what happens after this would differ slightly. So obviously PAYE workers, that would have to be processed by payroll, and that's obviously where that sits. I mean, for us, we've got InPay that you can integrate and run your payroll on there. If not, it obviously have to be taken out of InTime and managed separately. Moving over to the right, the expenses column is set up in a very, very similar way. So anything that's unauthorized, obviously it's been submitted but hasn't been approved by a manager, that would obviously sit in there. Once it has been approved and it's ready for sales invoice, it would obviously move down a little bit. And again, the last three columns are exactly the same. So obviously you'd have to have a self-bill arrangement for the self-bill expenses to being there. Typical limited worker, their expenses would be kept into advice note. And again, for ready for PAYE, that would be ready to be processed via obviously the payroll process. Once sales invoices have been generated, once they're ready to send off to clients, they'd be here. Once they're ready to be exported to your finance system, perhaps a Xero or a Sage, they could sit in here. Typically that works via a CSV file, so we can look at that in a little while, but that would be obviously where you'd export it. InTime is also capable of managing purchase orders. So this can be done in two ways. If an agency is working with purchase orders, there's two different ways in which it can be monitored by InTime, and that is over an amount. So perhaps you might have a client that says you're only allowed to bill us up to £20,000–30,000 a month. That would obviously be an amount, and it would be stored in there. Perhaps some other clients say we only want workers for perhaps 30 hours a week or 160 a month, whatever it is, and you'd obviously have an hourly allowance, both of which can be stored in here. Expired purchase orders, this is typically something we find agencies are looking to hide because it can get a bit confusing to have expired purchase orders, but if obviously you did want to keep them there and keep a record of everything that's going on, that's obviously where those sit. InTime is also capable of processing perm invoices, so some agencies who are just making permanent placements, we always advise them to send them through InTime, because obviously it would then show up on their reporting, give you a really clear kind of window and view as to what's happening within your agency. So perm invoices is definitely something that InTime Core can manage. Right at the bottom, the purchase invoices. So this is exactly what's going out for your contractors. So again, set up in the exact same way as your sales invoices. So this relates to your contractors. So anything to send, anything to export, and anything that's ready for payment would all sit in there. Being an accountancy firm, we're obviously hot on audit, so anything that happens within the system is recognised and picked up on. So there is a full audit history from every person that logs in, anything that's been changed or any timesheets that's been submitted, etc. would all be stored here. InTime Core is also capable of doing a HMRC intermediary report, and that is compatible with the government website. So you can just take the data straight from InTime and upload it to the HMRC website, for example. We've also got department analysis, so you can see exactly how your business and workers are performing. Demographics, obviously your gender split and age split, perhaps, and then obviously margin report and customer reports we can come to later. I think the next most important thing to show you on the administrator dashboard is timesheets, and you can send reminders. So, for example, if you were to find, I think I've just been logged off. So if you were to find perhaps your contractors are a little bit slow on sending in their timesheets or expenses, you have the ability to send a reminder to them. And likewise, if at agency level they're a little bit slow to approve it, you can obviously send reminders out from this area here. In InTime, there's about 40 different email templates that are stored relating to when a placement starts, to when you're expecting your contractor to submit timesheets and expenses, any kind of password changes or placement changes perhaps, or even placement expiry emails, all of which is managed by InTime. So that's just a really, really quick whistle-stop tour of the administrator dashboard, and I think now probably the most useful thing to do would be to show you the workflow process of a worker obviously coming in, submitting timesheets, and obviously the approval routes of what would happen after.